A strange design and a foreign concept, breaking the trends of conventional firearms and the very definition of an unknown quantity. Hi, Six Snipes here, coming to you with a video from the new 1.9 update for the game. Not a major expansion in this instance, there are no maps or new gadgets, as well as no new cosmetics to speak of. Though I'm not complaining.
$19 Fortnite card. Who wants it?
Here today with the first of the two new Rifleman editions, I'll be taking a look at the QBZ, and you're watching Gun Guide. The QBZ-97, or else the Type 97 automatic rifle, is a member of the Chinese family and the 5.56 export variant of the original QBZ-95, which instead utilizes a communist caliber nobody knows nor cares about.
Why you bullying me?
Commissioned by the Chinese government and manufactured in Norinco for the usage of the People's Liberation Army in the mid-90s, this, like many other weapons from that era, would soon become an undying classic used by the protagonists of first-person shooters over 25 years later.
Holy fuck. That gets so old. How did it get so old so fast?
Very few gamers know much about this except for its reputation as that Chinese gun. The aesthetic is of something which should be developed decades from now. The slick polymer, excessive curvatures, and bullpup coordination having a quite alien appearance. As for performance, let's just say that the most unrealistic portrayal in this and many other games is the fact that it's actually good.
Why you bullying me?
The issue with NWI adding more Rifleman picks is frankly that with so many already coming in at an even dozen before the new update, it gets very difficult with only so many stats to make guns tangibly different. We see this problem in Battlefield 4 with some weapons literally being indistinguishable in practice, and already in Sandstorm with a recently added AUG feeling and shooting exactly like an AK would.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture.
My theory is that because of this, the QBZ is what it is, something lacking tremendously in many departments as to differentiate it from the other guns, but carrying an extremely strong trait in a couple respects to make up for it. This allows for it to suck in a lot of scenarios at first, but with both the right strategy and the right build, you're set to use this killing machine on the capitalist pigs and their stupid attack helicopters. Firstly, it is prudent to point out the faltering issues with this gun. Coming in at the same price as an AKM, you're basically paying the same as something which comes with a lot more features from the get-go. The AKM is probably the best weapon to use without attachments. The high damage inherent of its 7.62 cartridge, 30 rounds of that coming out at a concrete 600 RPM, manageable recoil, reload, and flat iron sights make it a highly versatile package to begin with. Because of this, insurgents already have a gun with a decent price which slays out at the important ranges, and in that respect you'd probably call the QBZ weak. Lower caliber and way lower damage, and trade for a fire rate faster by 52 rounds and a tighter spread when controlled. That's all well and good, but considering the G36, the security 5.56 gun coming in at the same price with almost 100 rounds per minute more, you'd hesitate to say that the QBZ is fast for its category, not to mention the G36 is the gun they don't use. The AR-15 platforms you commonly see security forces running only get faster.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Not keeping up with a weaker security rifle, you might think that's as bad as it gets, but no, the clarity of the iron sights is horrific. Probably the worst I've ever seen and more narrow than the censorship rules of the country that uses it.
The fuck you say to me, you little shit? How are you not in fucking school?
So considering all this, you'd probably ask why NWI even implemented such a gun to begin with. Well, two things. Firstly, and most potently about this gun, it's probably worth mentioning now the fact that the 3x YMA 95-1 scope, which comes exclusively with this piece, only costs 1 credit.
Wow.
That's right, the same price as the PKAS optic with double the magnification, that of some of the lower end sniper scopes, and certainly enough so with only 4 credits you can manage long ranges just fine. I said the recoil of the AK doesn't need assistance, and this one has lower than that. As a matter of fact, the burst fire is very tight as is when you get used to it, with no grips or compensators in sight. Secondly, and perhaps most uncharacteristic of a bullpup rifle, the reload is directly competitive with the more standard pattern guns, something I can't say I've ever seen in this game. So combine a cheap optic with the sexiest green reticle features I've ever seen in an ultra snappy reload, and you may just be a force to be reckoned with. And for this reason, I would actually consider this at the very least a 4-stock gun, as much like the MP7, the user friendliness is far too low without better attachments to supplement poor base features, at least for me. The good news is 4 is still cheaper than the oh-so common security M4A1, meaning you're still saving money to throw on more stuff. I personally went to relive my Battlefield 4 days and built a makeshift QBZ-97 light support weapon, complete with bipod and drum magazine with a compensator, and honestly with that the recoil is low enough to make it manageable, bipod in prone or otherwise. It serves a squad gunner role spectacularly, but that being said, I found that my ideal build was with, of course, the precious 3x scope plus the lovely 40mm buckshot launcher, which is perfect for punishing anyone doing a cheeky solo push or who thought they could sneak into your sight. Just don't clear rooms with this thing, you're screwed if there's literally more than one hostile present.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I think the best application for this weapon is ranged warfare. It's certainly a field gun and really shines at some of the more ridiculous ranges. The idea that there's a very clear, high contrast optic with significant zoom for a singular credit is ridiculous, combined with how lethal the slower fire rate and low drag round is at range. Much like the AUG, the caliber combined with the unique optics make this gun an animal. So much so that in fact I wouldn't be shocked if the scope saw a nerf in the future, perhaps in magnification, but more likely in terms of pricing. The same goes for the reload. I would think that for this gun it's just too good. But as is, I would say this gun is very competitive. Range may be its domain, but the usability inside objectives was good. Even with the scope, 3x the magnification is high, but not too high so that locking onto targets is impossible. I did play the ACOG-centric siege after all. The key here is holding angles and knowing where your enemy is going to push, because as the famous Chinese philosopher and strategist Sun Tzu once said, gotta have patience to get dat dubskis. And that's just about all I have to say about the QBZ-97. Weak in many respects and perhaps a skill curve on the steeper end, but with the right knowledge and a little practice, definitely a high skill pick for the cultured firearm geek. I myself like this gun quite a lot and will probably be using it more in the future. I've only briefly tried the QTS-11, which I understand was a more modern attempt at a Chinese service rifle with what seems to be a neato bolt-action integral grenade launcher, and with that key feature, you'd think that it'd be the one with the bugged projectiles. Of the two, that one definitely excites me more, but I'm not sure how it plans on topping this performance. But we'll see. Until then, I'm Six Snipes. This is a very polished QBZ-97, and you've been watching Gun Guide. I'll see you out there in Sandstorm.